Hello my brothers and sisters, French Ride Warrior is present to go over Ragnarok chapter 103. A fast recap of the previous chapter will commence, so if you want to skip the recap, then jump to this time on the screen or click the time code in the description. Let's get into this. Last chapter, 102, opens by introducing us to the battle that took place near Lake Ladoga in southeastern Finland, where a legend was born during the miracle of Kala. Only one person was capable of such a thing, and we see a familiar sniper take aim. 3 Soviet soldiers drop instantly, headshots. It's Simo Hauha, already with a kill count of 137. The Soviet Union had begun its invasion on Finland with an army of 1 million soldiers through 4 routes. Finland counters with just 235,000, mostly farmers and hunters. This is the Winter War. During this war, at the Kala defense line, 4,000 Soviet troops pressed forward. Only 32 Finnish soldiers remained to defend. This situation terrified many defenders when suddenly another Soviet soldier was headshotted, making this the start of a battle that changed the course of the war. Every time Simo pulled the trigger, an enemy soldier was sure to fall as he continued to snipe more enemies, each with a 100% accurate shot. The Soviets are baffled as to how shots are being hit from such a distance. They begin to realize that it's the White Death and retreat. This day marked a victory for the 32 men, all thanks to Simo Hauha. The 32 men all set up camp and are very grateful to Simo helping them survive the battle. They're all impressed with his accuracy and are very excited at the idea of being able to reunite with their families. They all agree that with Simo, victory is assured and are all motivated to protect the fatherland. To them, Simo was their guardian deity. And speaking of Simo, they wonder where he is. They notice he went to bed early and decided to follow his example and get some sleep. However, Simo wasn't actually asleep. Instead, he was counting each kill he got while sitting, traumatized by each and every single kill. Ever since his first kill, he has never been able to sleep peacefully since then. Knowing many of these soldiers had families, Simo repeatedly apologizes in a praying posture. While keeping up the facade of composure to avoid demoralizing his teammates, his heart was bleeding profusely. One day, the Finnish men were defending against another assault. More men fall with Simo now totaling a kill count of 540. After gaining one last kill, an incident occurred. An enemy soldier attempts to figure out Simo's position but is also shot down. However, in his final moments, he pulled the trigger, sending the bullet in a different direction. This bullet should have never hit its target, but somehow the bullet ricochets off the large rock and heads towards Simo. Simo is struck and falls to the ground. His teammates run towards him, yelling for a medic. During all this chaos, only one thought came to Simo. He doesn't expect to be forgiven with just this. However, this does bring him a little sense of salvation. That would be his final battle, his confirmed kill count being 542, history's deadliest sniper, yet the man with the kindest heart. Back to the battle, Simo sacrifices his liver to enhance his next shot. Both Simo and Ragnarok feel the toll this technique has, and Simo aims down his sights. Loki can sense Simo aiming at him and tells Simo to go ahead and shoot so Loki can find him. Simo fires the next powerful technique called Lemminkainen, taking the form of a white swan. The bullet flies towards Loki, but for a god with a sharpened sense, catching up to the speed of a bullet is child's play. Loki, determined to find Simo's position, jumps out and sends his 3 clones in front. Immediately, all 3 are headshotted, with the bullet still heading towards Loki. Loki takes note of the bullet's trajectory and quickly summons a divine wall to shield himself. However, all is futile as the bullet pierces through, headshotting Loki. Could this really be the end of the trickster Loki? Or is this whole sequence truly an illusion of Loki's sinister plot? Now with this exciting new chapter, the first page shows us an image of Loki, accompanied by narration questioning how he became the first feared trickster among the gods. The narration questions if it was due to his slick personality or maybe his shape-shifting abilities, when in reality, it was neither. Instead, it was all because of love. The scene transitioned to the Garden of Gods in Valhalla, where several women are shown to be enjoying a picnic, when suddenly an individual walks near them and immediately all the women stop what they're doing and kneel. It's stated that from the very beginning, this individual's existence was always of a different nature. Despite having the blood of the frost giants, who were the Jotuns, they were also the enemies of the gods. This person became a god whose powers rival even Odin and Thor. This individual is revealed to be Loki, who had a different appearance back then. The women comment on his sinister aura, and another warns her to show caution, saying things like that. Otherwise, she will be eradicated. She reminds her of when a giant was killed once his heart was set ablaze by Loki, highlighting him showing no mercy at all, not even to his own race. Knowing this, Loki was the most feared and shunned in the Norse world. Our attention is then diverted to some of the Valkyrie sisters, also having a picnic and playing with each other. Halak jokingly states that her big sisters are cheating and being too childish, with Hurst and Thrud replying that she started the fight and made the mistake of picking it with them of all people. Rangriz wonders if Halak will be okay, and Ragnarok chooses to ignore it, followed by Gundel stating that this is just their usual thing. Loki walks by and takes notice of the Valkyries. Halak nails Brunhilde's face with a fruit and begins to laugh at her. Following this, Brunhilde steps to the side and picks up a watermelon this time. The sisters are shocked and advise Brunhilde not to throw such a big fruit, but it's all too late as she happily throws it at Halak, who dodges into Thrud's arms. The melon goes flying towards a yawning Loki as the sisters try to warn him. The melon hit his face, but he expanded his mouth and gave himself sharp teeth to catch the melon in his mouth. The sisters are terrified to see that it was Loki as he crunches down on the melon. Brunhilde apologizes and bends the knee, followed by the other sisters doing the same. Tension rises in the air as the other sisters are scared as to what Loki may do to Brunhilde. Loki finishes eating the watermelon and spits out the seeds in a funny fashion, catching Brunhilde off guard. During this, Brunhilde apologizes, and it seems something to be a little off with her, as Rangriz tells her to hold on. She can no longer keep it in and bursts out laughing, seeing Loki eating the watermelon like a squirrel and spitting it out, making a funny sound as well. Loki is surprised, not expecting such a reaction. Meanwhile, her sisters believe it's over for Brunhilde as she's laughing at Loki. Brunhilde states how funny that was and tells Loki that he's truly an amusing person while smiling at him. That smile causes Loki to be instantly flustered. Rangriz warns Brunhilde about her actions, and all Loki could do at the moment is clench his fists, grit his teeth, and simply walk away to everyone's surprise. Brunhilde once again apologizes and states she wasn't trying to hit him, and he responds, "It's okay, that it's no big deal at all." All the sisters are left baffled, and even Loki himself is baffled as he runs, conflicted with his feelings now. He leaps off the cliff into the air, realizing he really enjoys seeing her smile, and since then, Loki has become a changed man. Loki, who was once dreaded and shunned, now began to play pranks on other gods, as we see him draw images on Forsetti's face. His appearance has even changed to what we usually see him now. He runs away through the hallway with Forsetti chasing him, passing Brunhilde, and seeing her laugh brought him more joy. His next target was Ares, where he shaved off majority of his hair on top, triggering Ares and chasing Loki as he flies away, stating the meeting was just too boring for him. The timing nor target didn't matter to him, as he continued to carry out every kind of mischief, looking at her, always laughing and smiling. He became a trickster, all for the sake of one thing. His next act involved him stealing Mjolnir from Thor and running to Brunhilde. He tells her to run and takes her hand, and they both run off. She recognizes what Loki is carrying and questions if that's really Mjolnir. Loki replies that he just borrowed it. Brunhilde finds this hard to believe, but both of them quickly realize that Thor is on their trail, surrounded by lightning strikes. He looks furiously at the two, and Loki advises that they escape, as they both run off and the castle begins to emit a light from within. Then, last thing we see is Loki carrying Brunhilde in his arms as they both flee from Thor. Eventually, they lost him and ended up in an open area. Loki states that it was a close call and sees that Thor was really upset this time, thinking about how he should apologize. However, Brunhilde questioned his actions of stealing Mjolnir, something that Thor values more than life itself. She asks Loki, doesn't he think he went too far? And he apologizes, with Brunhilde starting to laugh as she was only joking, and states she's never been so scared in her life. Loki watches her laugh in awe, as all he desires is to see her smile forever. Unfortunately, that wish would never come true, as Loki sees Brunhilde walking with Siegfried. He takes notice of them holding hands, and is the first time he's ever seen her smile like that. He crushes some roses he got for her and angrily wonders who the hell is that person. He bites his fingernail and is now determined to do something. The scene shifts to a dead dragon whose head was sliced off by Siegfried, showered in its blood. Some maids come in to feed the dragon named Fafnir, Odin's prized pet dragon. They see Fafnir dead and scream for someone's help while running away. Afterward, Siegfried comments, "Very good," as a black smoke emits from his body and is suddenly revealed to be Loki, who was impersonating as Siegfried. He maliciously smiles, believing that once Siegfried is gone, Brunhilde's smile will only belong to him. Speaking of those two, we turn to Siegfried and Brunhilde being surprised that Odin would invite them to a marriage greeting. They wonder if Odin knew about them all along, but pay it no mind and just vow to be happy together. Upon entering the room, weapons are pointed at the two by Odin's guards. Brunhilde demands to know the meaning of this, and Odin's birds tell Brunhilde to restrain herself as she's in front of Odin. Loki walks up to them and says it's a shame because Siegfried is being charged with the crime of slaying Fafnir. Siegfried and Brunhilde are shocked at this statement, informing them that Odin summoned them for a marriage greeting. The birds reveal that Odin wouldn't do something so trivial. Instead, it was really to lure them here so Siegfried wouldn't be able to run away. One of the maids even expressed that she saw Siegfried killing him, leaving Siegfried little to defend himself with. Odin gives Sig one last chance to defend himself and questions why kill his dragon? What are his true intentions? Siegfried replies by saying it wasn't him and there must have been some mistake, with Brunhilde adding that Siegfried would never do such a thing. During this, Loki smirks, and Brunhilde seems to have picked up on that. However, Odin walks forward, calling Siegfried disgraceful for a demigod like him to have grown arrogant from being a hero and is now scheming a nefarious plot. He asks Siegfried if he understands the consequences of opposing a god, as both he and Siegfried begin to emit some type of aura. Suddenly, Odin notices that the 4 primordial treasures in his body are reacting to Sig's aura. Odin can't believe that Siegfried is his awaited vessel and begins to repeatedly call him a rarity, as everyone gives him a puzzled look. Deeming Siegfried as a gem, he judges him as guilty and orders him to be permanently confined to Tartarus, the abyss. Brunhilde rejects this, Loki stands surprised, and Odin demands the guards simply just take him away. Siegfried cries that he did nothing, and both him and Brunhilde call out to each other one last time. This was Loki's most cruel trick, born from a twisted love. While Brunhilde cries on her knees, Loki didn't expect Siegfried to be confined, but knows that the arousing suspicion could lead to him getting caught, which would be very bad. He also pays this no mind anymore, and he prances through the hallway, smiling that his one obstacle is gone now. He believed this action would bring about happiness until he approaches Brunhild later, who is looking back on her photos with Siegfried, giving a depressed look. Loki laughs about how he dyed Ares' hair green, this time while he was asleep, and she should come check it out to get some laughs in. Brunhild silently gets up and walks away. Loki notices the photo of her and Siegfried on her phone and nervously asks if it's about Siegfried, because he really does have free access to Tartarus, so he could bring her a gift or letter to him for her. Brunhild coldly gives a no thank you response, and just like that, Brunhild's innocent and cheerful smile had vanished. Loki questions why she is making that face, as all he wanted was to see her smile, as he gives a haunted expression, thinking about her former smiles. Loki, however, never gave up. He begins to write in his diary the actions he took. He tried to make her laugh in the hallway by showing her the watermelon trick again, with no luck. He even tried it with her favorite pie this time, and still no laughter from her. He believed her smile would return someday, until the fateful day where she issued Ragnarok. All to betray Odin, turn against the gods to save Siegfried, knowing that Ragnarok will shake the heavens and cause a shift in the power balance of gods. Brunhild was all still willing to risk her life. We are shown that in chapter 1, Loki was about to kill that same fodder imp that harassed her and got destroyed by Thor, with Thor taking note of Loki's presence too. This further highlighted her motivation to defeat Odin. During Ragnarok round 2, their eyes meet each other for the first time in a while, and Loki was happy about it, but even then, she didn't smile, causing Loki to want to get back to her as fast as possible. Before Heracles' match, we see the two have a conversation about justice, which as usual, Heracles claiming to be on the side of the righteous. Loki counters by replying, just because it's right, and just because he was a good boy and waited, doesn't mean Heracles will get what he wants. Heracles follows up by saying, if that's what Loki truly believes, then why is his expression so miserable, as Loki looks as if his heart is breaking. He repeatedly says Heracles is wrong in his diary, and the reason he's sad is because Brunhilde no longer smiles, and that smile won't come back. Finally, he boldly states that the only person who loves Brunhild more than anyone else is Loki himself. He doesn't care anymore, as he plans to murder them all. Back to the battle, and we pick up where Loki was shot in the head and falls to the ground. Heimdall announces the fatal blow as Simo watches. Unexpectedly, a rabbit comes from behind the tree and a black mist emits from it, revealing it to be none other than Loki, who plans to murder Simo with a sharp killing intent honed by love, bringing this juicy chapter to a close. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to talk about here because we got so much this chapter. So please make sure to like and subscribe to show your support for these videos. Each sub and like motivates me even further. With that being said, strap yourself in and get ready because we have a lot to go over. So obviously this chapter was all about Loki's backstory and how he became the person he is now. And Loki, right now, all I can say is, bro, this chapter is making you look crazy right now. Brother really fell head over heels for a girl smiling and complimenting him, laughing at his jokes. Not only that, but he even went as far as to remove her whole boyfriend in order for only him to see her smile. Not gonna lie, man, it's messed up what you did. Not Beelzebub messed up like what he did to Zero, but still wrong. I think the most surprising thing in this chapter is the whole Siegfried thing with him being framed by Loki. So I think that puts to rest any investigation on him being evil or maybe a traitor, because based on how we see him in the flashback, he was really in love with Brunhild. I mean, who wouldn't? And they were even planning to get married, which makes this whole situation even more screwed. Now, I am still Team Loki, but he just lost a ton of aura points. However, I still do want him to win. Loki now doesn't strike me as an evil, vile character, just more of a tragic one right now. I will say this, What Loki did is extremely cruel, and he doesn't even realize what he did is messed up, but I can't help but feel bad for him. He was the most shunned and feared god in the Norse world, and most wouldn't even talk to him. So I can see why he fell so hard for someone like Brunhild, who comes along, cheers him up, and especially with her being a girl as well. And to be fair, he did seem like he was going to confess his love to her, but he was all too late as her heart was already set on Siegfried. His circumstances growing up and how he was treated does not condone Loki for any of the things he's done. But nonetheless, I can understand why Loki spiraled into this the way he did. We've all had people we've had affection for only to find out that they have interest in someone else. And yes, moments like that do hurt, but it's always best to move on and try to make the best of life. Plus, Loki doesn't seem to have a good support system, so I doubt he really had anyone to confide in and help him through these destructive emotions. Not saying he was really wanting to anyway, but just still, he didn't really look like he had many people around. The only person who I think was the closest to that was Heracles, because to our knowledge, he was the only one who saw Loki's misery, which, by God, that panel just hit so hard with him seeing Loki distraught. But I digress. A god who was born a human first was able to see that another fellow demigod was suffering when the other full-blooded gods didn't, or maybe they did and they just didn't care. But Heracles is gone now, so who knows, maybe Jack will step in and help Loki if he survives his match. Loki in the past looks like a Poseidon that really just joined a heavy metal band. Not sure how I feel about the design, but let's just say I like the current one. Now, a question I pondered is, would Brunhild still oppose for Ragnarok if Loki never did this and she had Siegfried by her side? I believe she still would, and with Sig by her side would help keep her more calm too. I say this because if she really only cared about Siegfried, then she wouldn't be crying for the fighters that passed on. I believe that she may care about just simply both of them equally, and maybe Siegfried does get a little bit more importance than them. I'm 100% sure though, Brunhilde knows Loki had something to do with the framing. Or maybe later on she figured out that he can shapeshift to frame Siegfried, but has no proof or evidence of that, so she can't accuse him or say anything. Which, upon that realization, their conversation before the match started in chapter 98 is even more crazy, because even though she didn't mess with Loki anymore, you could still see that sad expression on her face. She was probably initially really pissed and hated Loki, but over time, I think now she just feels bad for him and is disappointed that it all had come to this. That and the other conversation they had where Loki had basically was impersonating as Odin and Brunhild saw right through it, and you know, she was kind of playing around with him a little bit, and we can all see why Loki got flustered now, because it all makes sense. That was probably one of the more, I don't want to say authentic conversations, but that was probably one of the conversations they had after a long time. So all this does really paint a different picture rereading those other chapters. Not only that, but Brunhilde isn't really someone to also wish death on someone, and seeing as how her and Loki used to laugh, it would make sense that she doesn't want to kill Loki. Yes, she dislikes him, but not to the point of happily hoping he dies. However, she knows that she has to do this in order to save both Siegfried and humanity. Loki crashing out after that conversation also hits more because remember, before Ragnarok, Brunhild wasn't talking to him at all. And this was about probably, I think, the second conversation or maybe third they've had. And during that conversation, Brunhild basically asked him to not only risk, but possibly die for her plan. That just hurts, man. The worst part about all this is Loki doesn't even see what he did was wrong and never thought about his actions. Literally, after Siegfried is taken and Brunhild is crying on the floor, he'd even consider Brunhild's feeling, didn't acknowledge her crying, and went immediately thinking about how he has her smile all to himself, clearly only thinking about his feelings. Overall, with Loki, things aren't looking good for him in my eyes. Definitely lost some respect. I understand it to a certain degree, but you're losing me, brother. Not to mention, brother, if you like Brunhild, you should have not been a prankster 24/7, because then she'll just see you as like a comedic clown. What you really should have done is taken her out on dates and get to know her, etc, etc. But either way, she had Siegfried, so I don't know if that would have worked anyway, because we don't really know when Siegfried and Brunhilde met. Now, a couple of things with Sig. So yes, he was framed and sent to prison, but still, how did he figure out Odin's goal for the primordial gods? He might have some spy or mole amongst the gods to feed him all this info. Speaking of Odin and Siegfried, it's crazy how Odin almost screwed himself over by killing Siegfried, because Odin was really about to spill blood right then and there. It's only for the fact that the treasures within him started reacting is when he knew Siegfried was the one and basically started losing it. Odin is not really good at concealing his emotions sometimes. Dude is literally calling Siegfried a gem and a rarity in front of so many spectators, and when he was accused by Buddha and Beelzebub, his response was instant violence and eradication. Odin, my man, you gotta keep a cool head. Seeing Siegfried and Brunhild going their separate ways was very tragic to read, and Loki 100% deserved that look when Brunhild said no thank you. Ugh. Even then, Loki did not put two and two together, thinking what he did was wrong and couldn't win over Brunhilde. It's truly a shame, because you can see how happy and cheerful Brunhild was before Loki did what he did. Now ever since then, as Loki said, that smile has faded, and now she's locked in for her goals. I wonder if Thor and Odin, or for any other gods, picked up on Loki crushing on Brunhild, or if they had their suspicions on Loki killing Fafnir. I'll just say, Loki better be careful to take that framing scheme to his grave, or even Odin might come and destroy him. Alright, last thing is the actual match now. So, Loki shapeshifted into a rabbit sometime during the match and is now caught up to Simo and is going for the kill. I am very curious to see how Simo will react and counter, since now it's close combat and not being long distance anymore. Loki himself has to be careful though as well, because I bet Simo's reaction speed is probably really good. I'm very excited to know how this next combat sequence is going to commence, and while we are talking about the match, I think with this backstory, Loki has a higher chance to win. Why? My reasoning is because Loki still has some potential character development to him, and a lot can be done. For example, if he can win his match, he can either go down the path of redemption and help Brunhild for what he caused, or he could further go down the crash out route and evolve into a bigger villain. Not saying Simo doesn't have the potential, but I could more likely see Loki surviving. Let me know what y'all think in the comments down below. Finally, I'm done with everything, and y'all better comment, because there's so much to talk about here and there's not enough time in this video for me to cover everything. Thank you very much for watching this video. Shoot your boy a like and subscribe for more future content. Stay safe out there and be good people. Peace.